So, playing some Fallout New Vegas today. This is a charity stream, so if you get the chance, please check out the links in the description. There's several charities there that help out with the local wildlife and nature ecosystem. Uh, they could all use your help. If you just click on those links, you can learn more about them. You don't necessarily have to donate. Donating would be nice though. Uh, so here we are in the Nevada Highway Patrol Station. I don't know what's going on. Every time I seem to load into this place, my stuff gets knocked over. Like for example, these three tin cans were all stacked onto each other. Now they're all knocked over. Weird. Earlier I set some wrenches. They got knocked over. Don't know what's been going on. Uh, so what are we up to? Well, I guess let's talk about. I was watching a divination stream the other day, a tarot reading stream. So we're gonna go over a little bit of that. So if you didn't know, Fallout New Vegas is a lot like Skyrim or Oblivion in the sense of this is very much a Dungeons and Dragons style world. Now, does it have a bit of office punk and a bit of 1950s what they call, I think it's called is it rockabilly or is it well, I know for sure it's got a little bit of themes of diesel punk. You'll notice, let's see, what's a good example of diesel punk around here? Maybe this toaster. So diesel punk is kind of, what is it called? So there's a band called Tiger Army. I believe that's their name. And they're a genre of basically 1950s reborn, I guess you could say, music. So it's music that is born of the thematic era that is the 1950s. Let's see. What are they called though? I want to say it's rockabilly, but I could be mistaken. Um, Anyways, you'll notice like that thing over there is a diesel punk. So diesel punk, the definition of diesel punk is like 18 wheelers, often rebar art, things of that sort. Well, it doesn't have to be rebar art, but in the general, diesel punk is anything that resembles like the old days of steel vehicles. So a lot of steel use is what you'll find in diesel punk. But there's also a lot of like 1970s office punk in this game. Uh, and punk, by the way, just means like it often just means a style type of thing, type of genre niche or whatever. So Tiger Army, what are? I want to say they're rockabilly. But once again, I could be mistaken. That's for sure. I just don't know. Let's see. What are they? Members, merchandise. Uh, what would these guys be considered? It's not easy finding what the genre is. I can find their albums, who their members are. Um, Yeah, by the way, if you ever get the chance to listen to Tiger Army, check out the song Prisoner of the Night. I really enjoyed that song. Great song. Okay. They are, yeah, rockabilly. Psychobilly. Okay, psychobilly, horror punk, alternative rock. So Wikipedia labels them as psychobilly, not rockabilly, psychobilly. So you got some themes of psychobilly in this game. Uh, You got 1950s, 1960s style, also. You got a bit of a kawaii, creepy, and kawaii or whatever. Kawaii, creepy, cute. Um, you got some, what is it? Uh, some of that medical fear. You know, the fear of medication, fear of the medical world, doctors, things of that sort. Yeah, there's a lot of themes in this game, but anyways, some of the major root themes Now those are the flares. So in Skyrim and Oblivion, you've got themes like oh, by the way, Warhammer is another theme in this game. You'll notice the super mutants, while they are very similar to orcs, they are also trolls and ogres and things of that sort. They're also very similar to the Warhammer super mutant orc looking things. But anyways, once again, there's a wide variety of themes jammed packed into this game. So, what am I getting at? The the one of the root themes, one of the most essential, most base themes to this game is Dungeons and Dragons role playing. So one thing you'll notice is not here, but not here, not here, not here, not here, not here. Okay, here. In your special, you've got stats, and these stats affect your overall performance in quest and battle situations. So, yeah, this game and Skyrim and Oblivion as well, and the older games, all have deep-rooted bases in Dungeons and Dragons. And Dungeons and Dragons is kind of like the madness that Don Quixote experienced, where he's sitting in a room, but he's fighting windmills. He's fighting he's it's everyday life, but he's fighting windmills. It's pretend. Now he was mentally ill, so when he plays pretend, it's considered a bad thing, because he's actually using a stick to hit. He's being a nuisance or whatever. He's wearing a bunch of pots and hitting he's hitting windmills, and he doesn't have the camera on him. Now, if he had permission to do that stuff, he had a camera on him, then he could be paid to play pretend and be an actor. But he wasn't, so he was just a madman for playing pretend or whatever. So, anyways, you'll notice in this game, there's these roads. So what do you see before you? What do you see? How can you describe this road? You could describe it as black asphalt. You could describe it as a street. You could describe it as concrete. But do you know how else you could describe this road? Well, just look at it. Listen to it. Listen to how our feet hit the pavement. Look at it. See all that? Well, how would you describe this road's composition? Do you know how I would describe this road's composition? I would not describe this a motor vehicle road. I would describe this as a cobblestone road, because it is a bunch of stone or stone-like material cobbled together. Now you got to keep in mind, stone is not always boulders and bricks. Stone, if you didn't know this, pottery, your ceramic mug that you like to drink coffee out of, that is by definition considered stoneware. So stone can often mean anything of earthen. Another word for stoneware is earthenware, because they are hard materials that we have sourced, shaped, and formulated or whatever from the earth. Concrete is not so different than stoneware in the broader definition and sense. It's not so different than earthenware. So this is a cobbled together road made of materials of earthen or stone. So this is by definition, now loose definition, by definition nonetheless, a cobble road, because it is cobbled together. It is a bunch of earthen or stone material cobbled together. This is a cobblestone road. So, if you're running on a cobblestone road, if I told you our hero is running on a cobblestone road, where would you assume our hero was? Well, you might assume that he was in a world like Dungeons and Dragons, a medieval world, a world of fantasy and fiction, because not many people use cobblestone roads nowadays. So, it's when you think about it, if you think about it hard enough, this game is really not much different than Oblivion or Skyrim. It's just got a bit of a slightly different flair, that's all. It's just got some extra styles in there. So Oblivion has thematic styles of the Renaissance. It's got styles of the Saxons of medieval Europe. It's got styles sourced from all over the place. I could go on and on about the different styles that are sourced for Oblivion. Fallout, it's essentially a very similar, if not the same game, just simply pulling sources of inspiration from more modern styles and games. So games like Warhammer, futuristic games, a little more space punk. Games like Office Hell Simulator. I think the game was called Kill Your Boss or something like that. I can't quite remember, but there's a lot more what would be considered modern styles that this game was pulled. The sources of inspiration were pulled from. One great example is so you're not gonna find this in a lot of games separate from this genre, but Stephen King, the author Stephen King, you can tell there's a bit of inspiration pulled from him in this game. Another thing to take note of is I'm not sure if if his stuff is still in circulation, but the Mormons used to have an artist who would paint many of the postcard-like things, media advertising sermons from their passages from their book. And they had a special artist that they would hire for all of their stuff. Now, I don't know if he was Mormon. He may have been, but maybe the people in charge of the Mormon church just like the guy. But anyways, you'll notice a lot of the scenery is very similar to the art that artist did. And funny enough, there is a Mormon in the Honest Hearts DLC. But yeah, there's a lot of inspiration pulled from separate medias that you might be able to recognize here and there throughout this game, and but that's just the thing. It's as a game, it's really not so much different than any other role-playing game or tabletop type game where you're playing Dungeons and Dragons or something of that sort, where you have these characters, these stat-based characters that you can choose to name, and they can gain different skills, improve their skills as they level, and perks and things of that sort. So, if you wanted to be, you could just as easily be a crusading knight in this game. You could be a berserker, you could be a marksman, you could be a pilgrim, you could be a monk. All of these things are possible in this game just as much as they are in Oblivion, Skyrim, or really any other game of this sort, form, or shape. It's just this game doesn't often get lumped in with that stuff because, well, many people's minds don't find the connection between games like this that have modern electronics and things of that sort and nuclear power with fantasy games. But do not be fooled, this is very much a fantasy game, and this is, while it does have themes that are relatively familiar to the world that you're familiar with, it is still a fantasy game and should be treated as such. It's really not much different than when you go with your friends to go play D&D. Hello? 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 Oh, there we go. It works again. Yeah, it's really not so much different than when you go with your friends to play D&D or something like that. Okay, well, what do we got to do? Did we put away all of our stuff? We got all that out of the way. Now you know what Fallout is. Now we have a lot of stuff we need to put away. Okay, let's go ahead and put away some stuff, and then I guess just for fun, we'll go ghoul killing for a couple days. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you just want to farm some good karma. Kill some ghouls. Now, we're not talking about sentient ghouls. By the way, I have I've shared within my household my theory of of why ghouls are sentient, and it's not a pretty theory. It's really not. It's really not a pretty theory. It's really not. But I'm not too sure if I've shared it on this channel or not. So, as disturbing as it is, I'm going to go ahead and share it. I'm going to share it here because when I try to talk about lore in other people's chats, I get punished for spoilers. You never want to walk on water in somebody else's house, as they say. But nobody can stone you for walking on water in your own house. So, since I'm in my own stream, I'll go ahead and share this theory. So the way the theory goes is ghouls are, I don't know if you're familiar with some people's stories, some people's mythologies of fades. So there's a show from 2011, around the year that this game was released and being played. There's a show now that was probably made at the same time this game was being worked on. There's a show called Fade from 2011. I haven't watched it, but I know people have watched it. And Fades, these creatures called the Fades, are very similar in nature to the creatures in Fallout New Vegas known as the ghouls. So, the thing about Fades is in order for Fades to be able to maintain their, their sanity, or their ability to function in a society non-violently, in order for Fades to retain their ability to control their aggression, they must consume the limbs, the dismembered limbs of human beings. And if not the dismembered limbs, at the very least, the blood and the flesh. So if you didn't know, ghoul is an old word. It is a literal translation for the phrase body snatcher. That who snatches the bodies. Hey, look at that. We got the ash pile to fall to the floor. I guess we are capable of cleaning this place up. Anyways, so the Fade takes dismembered limbs, not so much different than this one, and they consume them, and they become what you would consider more human or social. So to consume flesh is to gain what we consider sanity. So that is the Fade in these shows. So what am I getting at? Well, in Fallout New Vegas, you'll notice this field here that I'm at, there's not a lot of people around here, are there? But there's a lot of ghouls. And how do these ghouls look when you look at them? Well, they don't have much clothing. They look very hungry. They look very, very hungry. Look how hungry they look. They look famished. I'm not going to go travel there, but if you've played this game, you would know there's some less famished looking ghouls around the Mojave. One of the ghouls is known as Beatrix. She hangs out in a refugee camp full of people. An understaffed refugee camp with what are considered research scientists, not medical professionals. Now they are professionals in medical research, but they are not professionals in medical care. While they can perform medical care on you, that is not their profession. Their profession is research. So you got to keep that in mind, that you have a refugee camp for the sick and ailing, staffed by research scientists, not medical care workers, not people who have taken the Hippocratic Oath of do no harm. We're talking about researchers whose goal is to advance the pursuit of the scientific research for the sake of the scientific world. So what can you assume? Well, you can assume that this place where people go and don't come out is there's a certain degree of loss happening in those refugee camps. And you can assume that it's possible that this Beatrix, a ghoul who is very similar to a Fade, may be consuming the deceased, dismembered limbs of the people who pass in this refugee camp for the sick and ailing, understaffed by research scientists. You might be able to assume that. So who else is a ghoul that still has their mind? Also, the fact that bodies don't pile up in a place like that, you gotta assume that those bodies are going somewhere. Okay, who else can you assume might be consuming the dismembered flesh of the dead? Well, you've got Rotface in Freeside right next to the gate where you step out, and I have seen many a player. So in theory, the courier has died over maybe 3,000 times at the gate of Freeside. I've seen many a newcomer step into the gates of Freeside and be beat to death by the thugs who greet you there. Now, Rotterface, of course, flees and runs, and he does not fight to help you, but he does not have an interest in being attacked by those thugs. And as soon as you are dead, he can return to his place, to his station, and relax there, as the thugs will not harass him as long as you are not around. So, what can we assume? Well, there's a place where many people die that a ghoul happens to be hanging out. We might be able to assume that Rotterface consumes the blood and flesh and dismembered limbs of all newcomers who meet a bad fate in Freeside, as we don't see a multitude of bodies piling up in Freeside. But we do see many die if you've watched many people play. We do see many players die there. Who else is a ghoul that still has their mind? Well, you have... Oh, who else is there? Well, there's Jason, but that's a bit more complicated. That one does... I haven't given that one much thought, as Jason is not surrounded by a bunch of humans or a bunch of people who die. As far as I can tell, Jason... now, there's another possibility. And this is what I was getting to next before I jumped ahead to Jason. So, in Jacobstown, a town filled and populated by super mutant nightkin, there's a ghoul who still has her mind intact. Calamity. Now, you gotta keep in mind, Jacobstown is a town... Jacobstown is a town ruled by a super mutant who is not a Nightkin. Nightkin, by the way, are descendants, or at least former members of the Master's Army. I'm not entirely sure if this non-Nightkin super mutant who rules Jacobstown is a Nightkin, shares similar ideals as a Nightkin, or has the best interest of the Nightkins in mind. All I know is that he uses the Nightkin to herd bighorners. He uses the Nightkin to herd bighorners in a land full to the brim with Cazadors. Now, my character has many special protections against Cazadors, but there are many characters to which Cazadors might be considered the greatest, most powerful, and most deadly enemy in the game to them. I personally don't consider Cazadors the most deadly creature in Fallout New Vegas. I consider the Deathclaw to be the most deadly creature because of the numbers that they hang out in, and because of the high DPS they do, which can only be protected against with with durability with a DT with damage threshold or sneak or ranged attacks. But seeing as how I don't use ranged attacks and I'm not very sneaky, the Deathclaw to me is the most dangerous, as I have special protections against Cazadors. Anyhow, what am I getting at? Well, there's the possibility that many Nightkin pass and die around Jacobstown due to Cazadors, but we don't see many bodies of Nightkin piling up. But who do we see with a perfectly sane and sound mind in Jacobstown? Well, we see our friend Calamity, the ghoul. So, and lastly, we have Jason Bright, who is surrounded by Nightkin, very similar to Calamity. Nightkin, which Jason Bright has deemed demons. Nightkin, which Jason Bright has declared open season on because they are demons. A bunch of ghouls surrounded by a ever-growing army of Nightkin who are constantly being hunted down as demons, literally demonized, and killed by these ghouls, and any who would act as mercenaries for these ghouls. Big Nightkin, bigger than a man, more flesh, more blood, more bigger limbs to dismember. There's a very real possibility that Jason and his small army of ghouls are able to sustain their sanity as Fades by consuming the large amounts of flesh, blood, and dismembered limbs that can be harvested from Nightkin. That is my theory on ghouls in Fallout New Vegas. It's not a good one. I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel good to think about it. But that is how my brain put two and two together. Is it the right calculation? Probably not. Am I seeing things way wrong? Probably. But that's how I made sense of it all. So there is my school. You can choose to go to any school of thought. Or you can choose to create your own school of thought when it comes to games like Fallout New Vegas, Oblivion, and Skyrim. Those options are out there. The world is yours to decide for what you want to make sense of and what you don't want to make sense of. But now you have heard my school of thought when it comes to ghouls in Fallout New Vegas. So you can do with that information what you will. You can choose to accept it, deny it, or simply just ponder upon it as you go and create new thoughts. Anyhow, I think we'll be calling it a stream, so just a reminder, this is a charity stream, so if you get the chance, please consider donating to one of the links in the description. There's several links, all helping with our natural wildlife and ecosystem, and that's going to be all for now. So, wonderful day. Oh, hold on. Okay, there we go. So, might cut out. Sorry about that. So, have a wonderful day, night, evening, afternoon, breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever you're doing. Have a great time. Have a wonderful time. Enjoy yourself. Be safe out there. And goodbye, everyone.